Okay, keep rolling, 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 rolling. We are rolling. Champions of Champions Boxing Talk. Welcome back. Second video in succession in successive days. I'm on a roll. Keep on rolling. What are we going to discuss today? Well, there's a big fight coming up this weekend, isn't there? Terrence Crawford v. Indongo. Now, this is one of the most important fights. More important for boxing than the, shall we say, thriller in the lounge Vegas act that is Conor McGregor and Mayweather. I'm also going to be discussing Freddie Roach, who I was critical about last video, and Michael Kahns, Manny Pacquiao's advisor, and Manny Pacquiao himself a little bit. But on to real business. A unification fight. Many people have been claiming that they desire a unification fight. Where do I stand on how important unification fights are? I think belts have been kind of diluted in the recent boxing world in recent years. I think being the undisputed heavyweight world champion, even in the Lennox Lewis era, was the pinnacle of any sports person in the world. The only thing I think you could get better than that would be to be a footballer in a World Cup winning team, or a club footballer who's either won the Premiership and the Champions League. That's the nearest you would come to being the heavyweight champion of the world. But what was so special about being the heavyweight champion of the world, the unified heavyweight champion of the world, was it's always been the real sensationalized division, hasn't it? The heavyweights. And being the heavyweight champion, the undisputed champion, you're the only one. You can't rely on teammates in boxing to help you win a fight like you can in football and other sports. So you are the king of all the big men. That's why it was so special. The heavyweight luster is not quite the same as it used to be, but Anthony Joshua and other guys are trying to work on it to bring it back. But I don't think it's as important anymore, the unifications, as it was during them eras. Because it's all about brand names in boxing now, isn't it? Can you believe we've got a guy, it's very windy here tonight, so excuse the background noise. We've got a guy as gifted as Terrence Crawford. A guy that can fight orthodox southpaw, can throw great punches as a good lead jab, has a big punch on him for his size, has a good knockout ratio, even beats guys into submission. You know, basically corners pull their fighters out when Terrence Crawford fights them. He's got excellent foot movement, hasn't he? He can sort of go to war, but then be a strategist as he was against Victor Postol if he thinks the man in front of him is dangerous and win a decision. He has a good boxing IQ. He's very accurate. He has speed. He has, well, all the tools, I think, to be a genuine contender going further down the road for the pound-for-pound number one title. And I think that that is today's equivalent of being what used to be the heavyweight champion of the world. I know pound-for-pound is mythical, but generally, when you look at the top boys, they're there or thereabouts. You know, Terrence Crawford, what is he, top 3, top 5? He looks the part, doesn't he? He looks the part to belong there. Indongo, do I put him in the top 5 or top 10 pound for pound? No, I don't. And that's why Terrence Crawford, in my opinion, will win this fight. He's just levels above Indongo, in my opinion. I also think, talking about titles, winning titles in different weights has become more, shall we say, fashionable than unifying titles, because promoters seem to own titles these days, don't they? So in a sense, it's harder to unify titles. I believe Terrence Crawford can sort of bring the razzmatazz back to being the unified champion if he puts on a scintillating display. People will then say, the universally recognised, undisputed 140-pound champion, the spectacular Terrence Crawford. You see, it's how spectacular you are. You as the fighter make the belts. Everybody wanted the green belt because one very special heavyweight was synonymous with the green belt, wasn't he? Muhammad Ali. The WBC title is a magnificent prize to win, but it is nothing, I repeat, it is nothing without names like Muhammad Ali on its history. No question about it. Terrence Crawford does not have a Muhammad Ali appeal. Unfortunately, we've seen past prime fighters that are still getting bigger ratings than Terrence Crawford. What can he do to really change all this? We've seen Manny Pacquiao lose a controversial decision, but in the eyes of the public, when they look at the record book, it's still there as an L. And it makes no difference. The next fight, Manny Pacquiao will still pull in more numbers than Terrence Crawford. And Terrence Crawford is on a roll and undefeated. It's that secret ingredient, personality, charisma, style. Having a whole nation behind you. Guys like Floyd Mayweather have had these ingredients. Guys like Muhammad Ali have had these ingredients. Guys like Manny Pacquiao have had these ingredients. Ricky Hatton over in the UK here. I'm actually in Ricky Hatton's hometown, would you believe? Manchester. He had the ingredient. He could take thousands around the world wherever he fought. And is Ricky Hatton a greater fighter than Terrence Crawford? Well, it's yet to be proven, because Ricky at this point has beaten the better guy in Kostya Tszyu, and he's fought the better opposition. But I think Crawford can surpass him as a 140-pound fighter. I really do. I think Crawford is the best 140-pound fighter since Ricky. Different styles of fighters completely. But he doesn't have this gift of the gab charisma that Ricky had. Can a person learn that? I don't think they can. I think what eventually happens with a guy like Terrence Crawford is, as time goes on and it gets closer towards the retirement, the audiences start to think, oh no, why didn't we appreciate that guy more? We've got to see his final fights. And then the paydays come in. This is what happened with Joe Calzaghe. Now, Joe Calzaghe to me is a mystery, because he did have a good personality. You know, he was charismatic. He was handsome to the ladies. But for some reason, that just did not translate into vast pay-per-view numbers. Not until the end of his career, when people were so upset that this might be Joe's last couple of fights. Everybody then suddenly started panicking, thinking, oh no, this means we'll never get to see the Welsh Warrior again. Why didn't we appreciate him while he was there? That's what I think is going to happen to Terrence Crawford. I think Crawford is going to go on and achieve a lot. I think he will unify the title against Indongo, and then he will go up to welterweight, and I do believe he will win a welterweight title. I think Terrence Crawford has the skills to beat Keith Thurman. This is the strange thing. We can't do the triangular theory in boxing, because how often does it make a fool out of us? It does, because styles make fights. I think because of Keith Thurman's movement, no doubt Errol Spence has to slow him down somehow. Because I think Keith Thurman's movement will give Errol Spence more problems. Because Kell Brook is not Keith Thurman style-wise. You know, he's there to be hit. Keith Thurman now has become more one-time, or should I say sometime Thurman, than one-time. His movement would trouble Errol Spence. He would not be there like Kell Brook was there. Kell Brook was there fighting a fight which I knew he'd fight, but he shouldn't be fighting. But Keith Thurman has good foot movement. And Errol Spence loves a fighter that's right there in the pocket, in the exchange. So he can do that blistering bodywork. If he can slow Keith Thurman down and make it a dogfight, I do favour Errol Spence strongly. But Keith Thurman is also a very good boxer and more experienced at this point. I think Terrence Crawford beats Keith Thurman. But I think he loses to Errol Spence through size and strength and power. And the fact that Crawford would have to be dancing on a string on a 100-foot skyscraper all 12 rounds via Errol Spence. But yet I think Thurman could possibly beat Errol Spence by points. See, styles make fights, don't they? Thurman beats Spence. Crawford beats Thurman. Yet Spence beats Crawford. That's bizarre, but that's boxing. That's how I see it. But he can win a belt at the welterweight weight class, in my opinion. Terrence Crawford. Indongo, to me, Ricky Burns is well past his prime. It was a good win, don't get me wrong. He's very, shall we say, awkward and jerky and that sort of stuff. Indongo, I'm impressed with his jab, but sometimes when he throws a punch and he doubles on it, he kind of then puts his body out of, shall we say, in an awkward, unbalanced positions and things of that nature. And if you throw a punch and then you go unbalanced and you're in there with a guy as skilled as Terrence Crawford, that spells danger. Indongo could not, shall we say, knock out Ricky Burns. Now, neither could Terrence Crawford, but it was a younger, more primer version that Terrence Crawford beat. So, Indongo's power, I don't think, he may have his moments, Indongo, and maybe this awkward style may cause Crawford some problems. You know, he's kind of lanky, I think, as well. So maybe his length may be one of the things in a long time which Terrence Crawford has to kind of think about when Indongo decides to use that jab and the length of his arm. Indongo, I think, will come forward, but he has to be able to box on the back foot, in my opinion, and bring Crawford onto him. And I don't think Crawford is going to fall for that. And Indongo, I don't think, has the boxing IQ. I think this is where he loses the fight. I think Crawford is the superior boxing technician. He's more of a rings craftsman than Indongo. He's more fundamentally sound than Indongo. He has more tools, switching from orthodox to southpaw. I think he even has more popping than punches, you know. Upsets in boxing do happen, but I see Terrence Crawford taking either a late stoppage here or a unanimous decision. Indongo will hold his own, but that will be the typical when Terrence Crawford is collecting data. And Crawford is the guy that collects data. Sometimes in Mayweather fights, fighters have a good start and they tire. And that's when Floyd comes on. The adjustments that people talk about, it's not always the case. The fighter is fatigued and Floyd then can take over without really making the adjustments. But Terrence Crawford really does make adjustments. When's the last time you saw Floyd Mayweather, as great as he is, fight nearly a full match in a different stance? Crawford can. Crawford does. Crawford switches whenever it takes his fancy. That's what you call making adjustments. Assessing the database in front of you. Taking the typewriter out. Reading the script. Finding the spelling errors and correcting them. That's what Terrence Crawford does. And he is the master in current boxing of that. So, Crawford, for me, schools Indongo. Indongo, I think, loses this 9 rounds to 3. With a possible he gets dropped. And maybe Crawford takes him out late. But Crawford he can't give us another Victor Postall. In England, he's got a Sky Sports audience. Show what you can do. Give us the Gamboa, Terrence Crawford. And you will be a little bit closer to being a name like the first guy I spoke about who held that green belt, Muhammad Ali, and people like that. Because, unfortunately, we're going to see so many talented guys. Andre Ward is another one. Leave the sport. And people are still talking about Mike Tyson. Who... There are certain fights in history that the general public don't know about that are better than Mike. But because Mike had that charisma about him and that story behind him, he captured their imagination. And he had an exciting style on top of it. Crawford needs to think about doing some of the same things. I like Terrence Crawford as a man. Anthony Joshua is a better, more charismatic version of Terrence Crawford. Not a better fighter, not in a million years. And he has the benefit of being a heavyweight. That helps to sell yourself, trust me. We're all dying out for a new king of the heavyweights. A Lennox Lewis, a Muhammad Ali, a Joe Louis, something. So Joshua's got an advantage that Crawford does not have there. But good styles can help you a great deal. They really can. And Crawford's got that talent to do that. And he's going to have to do that. Him to create big paydays and huge fights. Because if he's not bringing in the numbers, a Keith Thurman won't want him. Why would you fight someone who is so skilled and talented when you know you're going to lose to them for peanuts? That's why people will fight Floyd Mayweather. Because it's such a great payday. Right? They know probably they're going to lose. But if Floyd Mayweather only guaranteed fighter X $1 million, and you're going to lose for $1 million, but you could beat Danny Garcia over there for $3 million, what are you going to do? You're going to fight Danny Garcia, aren't you? It talks, but people don't buy fighters. It's salesmanship boxing to the casuals. People buy personas and personalities. If Crawford can install his persona on the public, on the casuals, by giving them glimpses about him that are truly unique and inspiring, and then combine that with thunderous performances when the audience counts on Saturday, he has a chance. But for now, we're going to be talking about Pacquiao Horn, aren't we? Because this has drama about it. Again, Crawford doesn't have much drama about him so far. But Manny Pacquiao does. And this is just more. People buy drama. They like drama. Floyd Mayweather has drama. Manny has drama. Different styles of drama, but it's drama. Right? I was critical the other day, yesterday, about... How much time do we have left? I was critical about his coach, Freddie Roach. I don't think he's motivating Manny, But there's a little bit of good news today. But I want to know how it's got to this in Manny Pacquiao's camp. Apparently, Michael Kantz has been in charge of hiring Manny Pacquiao's sparring partners for his first fight with Jeff Horn. According to information, Michael Kantz hired fighters that were 130 pounds to spar with Pacquiao. What are you doing hiring sparring partners that are 130 pounds when you're about to face a big welterweight who could go in there 150 plus? What is going on in that camp, right? And why is Freddie Roach allowed Michael Kantz, who's a businessman? He's not a boxing trainer, he's a manager. Why is he allowed Kantz to pick Manny Pacquiao's sparring partners? You're the coach. You're the trainer. Take control. You need to replicate in sparring to a large extent what you'll be facing on fight night. And why is Manny Pacquiao seeing guys come in training camp when he's used to fighting guys on a regular basis that are bigger than him and not scratching his head and going, huh? Who's this small guy? I'm fighting Jeff Horn in Australia. What have you brought me this for? Honestly, again, Manny Pacquiao has two career rivals in the era. There were Marquez and Floyd Mayweather. I can't imagine for the life of me Floyd Mayweather, in his preparation for Canelo, fighting a 130-pound fighter in sparring. If the manager brought Floyd Mayweather, or a manager did bring in a 130-pound fighter to prepare for Canelo, Floyd Mayweather would fire that manager. Let me tell you that. Floyd would want to replicate every single ounce. He would want to know everything and find the nearest clone he could to the guy he's fighting. Very detailed. A 130-pound sparring partner is not going to prepare you physically for Jeff Horn, even if they are more skilled. Right? But why on earth is Manny allowing Kantz to pick his sparring partners? He's fought bigger guys all his life. Wouldn't he find it odd that smaller guys are suddenly sparring him? Why is Freddie Roach not saying to Manny and Kantz, look, you do your job, let me do mine? But the good news is Freddie is taking control back. He's now saying in the rematch he will pick the sparring partners. This is what we were asking all along, Freddie, for you to be the boss. The trainer in camp has to be the boss. I know Manny's a politician, but when he's in training camp, Freddie, you have to lay down the law. And that starts with bringing in the right guys, bigger guys, to prepare for Jeff Horn. Because the more you do something, the more you get used to it. Manny will get used to the bigger guys in sparring. Then it won't be a shock to the system when UFC boy Jeff Horn comes in and tries to do a headlock. Manny will be prepared for it then. He was more than prepared for Horn's skill set, and he was beating Horn in terms of the Queensberry rules, shall we say, on fight night. But Horn did implement his physicality on Manny. It makes sense now. When I come to think about it, when watching that fight back, Manny was kind of pinned up on the ropes. Horn was landing little and getting popped. But I was wondering, why is Manny stuck there? Because Manny was able to bully his 130-pound sparring partners around in training camp and then got there fight night fighting a guy 160 pounds. You can't kind of bully that guy around when you're not used to it, can you? Practice makes perfect. I'm glad Freddie Roach is taking charge again. I hope Manny now listens, and I hope Freddie again accesses Manny's psyche. So, Terrence Crawford for the win. Freddie Roach taking charge again. It should not have got to this point, though, in Team Pacquiao. This is a real professional camp. Manny Pacquiao is one of the most prominent people in the world. His team should know what they're doing. And everybody's role should be that. You should not have Michael Kantz, who has never laced on a glove in his life. I've boxed more than Michael Kantz has, right? Picking Manny Pacquiao sparring partners. Freddie Roach, 7 times Trainer of the Year. He should tell Kantz where to go. He's got the awards to show it. Start telling them, Freddie, who you really are and how prominent you are, and that you are the man. You've achieved the equivalent in your profession training as what Manny has in the boxing ring. You let them know that. Because at the moment, you're accepting a check, but in terms of control and being a leader, you are being walked all over. It's time now to take the bull by the horns again and get Manny into shape to blast that boy back to Australia. And good luck, Terrence Crawford. So, undisputed champions of champions boxing talk. I'm out.